The automated hydrofoil serpent's embrace sliced smoothly across the vast, shimmering expanse of the Great Rift Sea. Captain Amara Kalfani, her skin a rich mahogany from years under the equatorial sun, stood on the bridge. Her posture was relaxed yet alert. Her keen dark eyes scanned the horizon. She looked not for the distant coast of a faraway ocean, but for the towering, verdant cliffs of the Niika archipelago. These islands, once mountain peaks, now rose dramatically from the freshwater depths. Below the surface, advanced hydrosonar painted a living, detailed picture of deep, ancient trenches and vibrant aquatic ecosystems. This immense inland ocean split the African continent. The bridge itself, a blend of polished hardwoods and holographic displays, hummed with barely perceptible power. It was a testament to the seamless integration of heritage and innovation that defined her world. It was May 2025. This was not a world of dry savanna and isolated lakes. This was a world where the very cradle of humanity was dominated by a colossal, permanent freshwater sea. Profoundly altering the course of human history from its very origins, the omnipresent scent of fresh water and salt-like lake breeze filled the air, a constant reminder of the sea's profound influence. Amara felt the rhythmic thrum of the hydrofoil's engines beneath her feet. It was a powerful vibration that resonated with the ancient pulse of the rift itself. Every journey across these waters was not merely a logistical task. It was a communion with a living historical force, a tangible link to the diverging path her ancestors had walked. The pivotal divergence in this timeline occurred millions of years ago. It happened long before the emergence of Homo sapiens. Our world knows the Great Rift Valley as a series of tectonic depressions, some holding temporary or permanent lakes. Here, however, a subtle yet significant shift in tectonic activity led to a different destiny. This, coupled with altered, persistent rainfall patterns and sustained input from Africa's great river systems, changed everything. Instead of periodically dotting the landscape, the numerous lakes within the Rift Valley coalesced. They deepened and became continuous. They formed an uninterrupted, vast freshwater inland sea, the Great Rift Sea. This colossal body of water stretched for thousands of kilometers. It ran from the arid Danakil Depression in the north to the southern reaches of what we know as Lake Malawi. It remained a defining geographical feature throughout human evolution and subsequent history. This wasn't a sudden, cataclysmic flood. Water arrived gradually, over millennia. Ecosystems adapted and evolved in tandem. The geological forces that shaped the rift in our world continued. This involved the relentless pulling apart of the African plate along its divergent boundaries. However, there was a slight, persistent downwarping of the central basin. Imagine a continuous tilt of the tectonic plates. This ensured the accumulating water had no escape. This subtle variation in the interplay of fault lines and mantle plumes resulted in a permanent, deep trough. Rivers like the Nile's ancient tributaries, rather than flowing directly to the Mediterranean or Indian Ocean, became major arteries feeding this immense new sea. Their voluminous flows sustained the sea's permanence. These flows were supported by altered atmospheric circulation patterns that brought more consistent rainfall to the rift region. This continuous hydrological input, combined with the profound geological basin, transformed a land of episodic lakes into a living, breathing inland ocean. Its powerful currents, vast depths, and distinct marine geology defined the land and its inhabitants around it. This meant that the geological strata, the very bedrock of the cradle of humanity, developed differently. It impacted everything from soil composition to mineral distribution. The Great Rift Sea was not just a body of water. It was the ultimate expression of Africa's geological destiny. The traditional cradle of humanity in East Africa, so often associated with dry savannas and volcanic highlands, was now largely submerged, or it was transformed into a rich, riparian environment of coastal plains and extensive wetland forests. This profound change meant early hominid evolution unfolded in entirely new ways. Instead of adapting solely to open grasslands, early hominids here might have thrived in extensive wetland forests. They could navigate through cypress swamps or along vast, humid coastal plains, teeming with aquatic life. Bipedalism, while still a crucial adaptation, might have been driven by different needs. It wasn't just about seeing over tall grasses or traveling between forest patches. It became essential for wading through shallow waters, navigating flooded environments, or accessing marine resources from semi-aquatic habitats. This constant interaction with water also fostered new forms of locomotion and potentially greater manual dexterity for manipulating waterborne resources. Evidence suggests early diets incorporated a far greater proportion of aquatic resources. These included fish, shellfish, and water plants. Such diets led to distinct physiological and cognitive developments. The rich protein and omega-3 fatty acids from these aquatic diets might have fueled more rapid brain development. This could have accelerated cognitive leaps in spatial reasoning, memory, and toolmaking adapted for fishing or processing aquatic foods. We might find tools for spearfishing, net making, or even specialized fish traps predating their counterparts in our timeline. Early forms of resource management, like protecting freshwater estuaries or regulating fishing grounds, could have emerged. Crucially, the out-of-Africa migration routes were fundamentally altered. The Great Rift Sea acted as an immense, unavoidable barrier. Early humans were compelled to navigate around this colossal body of water. This forced adaptation and innovation. Some lineages might have developed early water-crossing technologies. These could be rudimentary rafts woven from papyrus or bundled reeds, simple canoes fashioned from hollowed logs, or even early catamaran-like structures for greater stability. This pushed the boundaries of ancient maritime skill long before conventional timelines. It could have led to different, possibly earlier, dispersal patterns across parts of the sea itself. Small groups might have ventured onto the deeper waters. This could also have facilitated quicker migrations into adjoining continents. Other groups followed longer, more arduous land routes. They moved around the northern or southern extremities of the sea. The northern route, around the Danakil Depression and into the Middle East, might have been impacted by altered rainfall patterns. This could have made some desert regions more passable or created new challenges where perennial rivers once flowed. The southern route extended far beyond our historical Lake Malawi and around the sea's southern tip. This would have been a monumental journey, shaping distinct physical and cultural adaptations for enduring vast distances. This diversification of human dispersal profoundly affected the genetic makeup and distribution of populations across the globe. The Great Rift Sea ensured that the peopling of the world followed distinct, perhaps more complex and multi-directional pathways. This led to a richer mosaic of early human cultures and genetic lineages across Africa and beyond. Archaeological sites from our timeline, once key to understanding human origins, were now submerged beneath kilometers of fresh water. This led to a vastly different understanding of ancient prehistory. New sites, located further west or along the sea's newly formed ancient coastlines and islands, held the keys to this alternate past. They revealed evidence of communities deeply integrated with the vast freshwater expanse. The development of advanced navigation skills, including rudimentary astronomical knowledge and a deep understanding of currents, would have become essential survival tools for survival and expansion. The transformation of East Africa into a vast inland sea utterly reshaped the development of civilizations across the continent. The Great Rift Sea became a massive central artery for trade, communication, and unprecedented cultural exchange. Its shores flourished with distinct maritime cultures. These cultures developed sophisticated shipbuilding and navigation techniques tailored to its often deep, unpredictable currents and seasonal changes. These weren't mere lakeshore communities. They were true freshwater seafaring nations, with complex social structures and economies built around the sea. Ancient mariners of the Rift designed vessels perfectly suited for its specific conditions. Early forms might have included large, stable, outrigger canoes capable of carrying significant cargo. These evolved into powerful, deep-keeled vessels, resembling advanced dhows, but constructed with specialized freshwater timbers. Later, they developed multi-hulled ships and vessels with innovative sail designs that could harness the rift's often shifting wind patterns. This allowed for swift passage across its immense distances. Their navigation relied on intricate star charts specific to the equatorial skies. They had a sophisticated understanding of deep water currents and thermoclines. They even used early forms of echo sounding, using resonant materials to map the submerged mountain ranges. This deep knowledge of the sea was codified in oral traditions, elaborate mnemonic devices, and eventually written nautical charts that were invaluable trade secrets. Trade networks blossomed. They exchanged not just land-based goods, but unique aquatic resources. These included specialized freshwater fish varieties, lustrous freshwater pearls cultivated in vast underwater farms, and rare minerals exposed by the sea's deep geological activity. Coastal mines developed to exploit these distinct deposits. Industries for specialized water-resistant textiles and dyes derived from marine flora also emerged. The coastal cities became vibrant melting pots of ideas. Different African languages, spiritual beliefs, and artistic traditions mingled there. This gave rise to unique cultural fusions. Common trade languages often emerged, facilitating seamless commerce across diverse communities. Architecture along the rift's shores often incorporated elements inspired by marine life or adapted to waterside living. Many structures were built on stilts, featuring intricate canal systems or even semi-submerged foundations. These cities were testaments to human ingenuity and adaptation. Regions that were once arid or semi-arid became fertile coastal plains. They were fed by the sea's consistent moisture and the altered flow of major rivers. This supported distinct forms of agriculture, emphasizing specialized rice varieties, aquatic plants like water chestnuts, and large-scale freshwater aquaculture. This consistent and abundant food supply sustained much denser populations than in our timeline, fostering rapid urbanization and the development of complex societal structures. The historical trajectories of powerful African kingdoms were profoundly reshaped by this new geography. The Kingdom of Kush, rather than being solely centered on the Nile, expanded its influence. It controlled vast territories along the southern Rift Sea, becoming a dual power with significant naval might. Its wealth wasn't just gold and river trade, it also came from the abundant resources of the sea itself, including valuable aquatic exports and control over vital trade routes crossing the sea. Its iconic pyramids might have been mirrored by magnificent coastal cities and formidable harbor defenses, demonstrating a fusion of land and sea power. The Aksumite Empire to the north extended its reach from the Red Sea deeper into the continent. It gained immense power by controlling key northern ports on the Rift Sea. This strategic position made Aksum a vital gateway between the maritime worlds of the Indian Ocean and the vast African interior. This fundamentally altered its trade goods and geopolitical ambitions. Aksumite fleets, renowned for their speed and cargo capacity, plied both the Red Sea and the Great Rift Sea. They facilitated an unprecedented flow of goods and ideas. The city-states along the Swahili coast, instead of solely facing the Indian Ocean, became intrinsically linked to the Rift Sea trade. They were the primary architects of the advanced deep-draft vessels that plied its waters. They adapted their dhow traditions to the freshwater environment, fostering new coastal metropolises far inland from our historical shoreline. The very concept of Swahili here was a dynamic hybrid of Indian Ocean and Rift Sea influences. This created a unique synthesis of cultures, languages, and trading practices. Beyond these familiar names, entirely new powers emerged. They thrived solely due to their advantageous positions along the Great Rift Sea. These included powerful city-states specializing in unique aquatic exports, or confederations of islands that controlled vital trade routes. They asserted their sovereignty over vast stretches of water. This interconnectedness fostered a vibrant intellectual and artistic flourishing, a rift renaissance of sorts, marked by advancements in science, philosophy, and the arts. The absence of a continuous land bridge across the rift fundamentally impacted trans-African interactions. By extension, it also affected global dynamics. West African empires like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai developed along their own lines. However, their renowned gold-salt trade routes would have inevitably extended further east to reach new, vibrant Rift Sea trade hubs. This would have fostered a more interconnected sub-Saharan trade network. West African gold flowed eastward to meet Rift Sea pearls and Central African minerals. From there, it could flow to the Indian Ocean. New north-south routes would have emerged, perhaps through the Sahara. The Sahara might have been slightly more humid due to altered rainfall patterns, allowing for more sustained caravans connecting the Sahelian empires to the burgeoning rift economies. This created a different internal dynamic across the continent. It fostered a more unified East Central Africa through shared maritime culture and economic interdependence. It also created new rivalries between distinct cultural blocs, vying for control of lucrative trade routes and valuable resources. African societies, particularly those flourishing around the Rift Sea, were economically more robust. They were politically more interconnected and culturally more diverse. Their strong internal markets, diversified economies based on both land and aquatic resources, and sophisticated political structures meant different internal dynamics and relationships with external powers. Consequently, the transatlantic slave trade, so devastating in our history, might never have emerged in the same form or scale. With powerful, prosperous maritime nations controlling vast internal trade, African leaders would have possessed greater leverage and internal cohesion. Their societies would have been better equipped to deter external aggression and negotiate from a position of strength. This made them far less susceptible to the same kinds of exploitation. Instead of being seen as a primary source of forced labor, African societies, especially the Rift civilizations, would have been viewed as formidable trading partners and powerful entities to contend with. Their internal strength would have been a significant deterrent to external exploitation. The Age of Exploration, if it occurred in a recognizable form, would have seen European powers encountering a vastly different Africa. It would be more developed and internally connected. Instead of seeking routes around Africa to Asia, European maritime powers might have focused intently on discovering and exploiting the immense resources and sophisticated markets of the Great Rift Sea itself. They would have sent expeditions not to circumnavigate a landmass, but to gain access to a powerful internal trade network. This would have led to different patterns of colonialism. Perhaps it would focus more on establishing fortified trade enclaves and seeking partnerships with established African powers, rather than pursuing vast land empires. They would have faced far more formidable resistance from the well-established Rift civilizations. Their navies and sophisticated trading networks commanded considerable power. Attempts at direct conquest would likely have been met with overwhelming force from coordinated African states. The very notion of discovery would have been a non-starter. Europe would have been encountering a continent already traversed, mapped, and deeply interconnected internally. The concept of a dark continent would be utterly alien in this timeline. Global trade routes would have evolved differently. The Rift Sea would act as a major internal African highway, connecting its diverse regions to each other. These regions would then link to external trade networks through new maritime routes or altered land connections to the Middle East and Asia. Imagine sophisticated East African fleets forged on the Rift Sea, regularly traversing the Indian Ocean. They would link directly with Asian markets and potentially establish their own trade outposts there. The global balance of power would be fundamentally different. More powerful and interconnected African states would play a much more prominent role throughout history and into the modern era. They would reshape alliances, economic dependencies, and cultural exchanges on a global scale. There would be no scramble for Africa as we know it. Instead, there would be a complex interplay of powerful continental and maritime forces. Africa would maintain its sovereignty and agency on the world stage. The 20th century, particularly, would have seen a significantly different geopolitical landscape. It would avoid the devastating impacts of 2 world wars and Cold War proxy conflicts in Africa that plagued our timeline. Africa's rise would have been gradual, organic, and driven by its distinct internal dynamics. This culminated in a powerful and respected presence on the global stage. In 2025, the Great Rift Sea was undeniably the heart of a thriving, technologically advanced Africa. Its shores were dotted with glittering port cities. These included Kushite Swahili, a sprawling metropolis at the southern end of the sea, and Abyssinian Delta, a northern hub nestled amidst fertile river deltas. These cities were centers of commerce, innovation, and learning. They showcased a unique blend of ancient African architectural traditions and cutting-edge engineering. Kushite Swahili, for instance, was a marvel of adaptive urban planning. Its architecture was a breathtaking fusion of ancient Nubian geometric patterns and Swahili coastal aesthetics. It was seamlessly integrated with futuristic, climate-controlled vertical farms and bioluminescent infrastructure. Portions of the city extended onto the water itself, supported by vast floating platforms and submerged foundations. This created a dynamic, ever-expanding urban landscape. It served as a primary gateway to the vast mineral wealth of southern Africa. It was also a cultural melting pot where the ancient rhythms of the continent met the hum of innovation. Daily life in Kushite Swahili revolved around the sea. Public transport often involved electric ferries or personal hydrofoils. The city's markets overflowed with fresh aquatic produce alongside traditional land-based goods. Educational institutions focused heavily on limnology, advanced engineering, and sustainable resource management. They prepared the next generation to be stewards of the Great Rift Sea. Abyssinian Delta, conversely, was a hub of ecological research and agricultural prowess. It was nestled amidst the fertile deltas, where the sea met its northern tributaries. Its skyline was dominated not just by high-rises, but by massive, transparent domes. These housed advanced limnology labs and vertical aquaculture facilities. It specialized in freshwater ecology, sustainable resource management, and the export of genetically optimized aquatic food resources. Scholars from across the continent and beyond flocked to its universities. They were drawn by its unparalleled research into freshwater biodiversity and sustainable living. Other cities, like the floating research outposts within the Nyika archipelago, were dedicated to the extraction of rare earths and unique aquatic resources from the submerged ancient mountain ranges. Their lights glittered like fallen stars across the water at night. They were connected by a network of automated submersibles mapping the deep. Technology throughout the rift was purpose-built for its distinct environment. Vast fleets of solar-powered hydrofoils, like the serpent's embrace, effortlessly skimmed the surface. Their sleek hulls reduced drag and maximized speed while leaving minimal wake. These vessels often employed advanced AI for optimal route planning and fuel efficiency. They integrated real-time weather and current data from thousands of networked sensors across the sea. Deep draft cargo vessels, many fully autonomous, and powered by fusion cells or advanced battery arrays, plied the Rift Sea's depths. Their massive holds carried everything from rare earth elements to processed aquatic proteins. Navigation relied on sophisticated hydrosonar mapping. This provided real-time 3D models of the seafloor, identified submerged hazards, and predicted complex current patterns down to minute eddies. Advanced automated systems even tracked subtle thermoclines and nutrient upwellings. This enabled vessels to ride hidden currents for maximum efficiency or locate prime fishing grounds. Maritime energy harvesting was a primary power source for coastal cities. Vast arrays of wave, current, and thermal generators were seamlessly integrated into the shoreline infrastructure. Osmotic power, harnessing the energy from freshwater mixing with the sea at river deltas, contributed significantly to the energy grid in cities like Abyssinian Delta. This commitment to renewable energy made the Rift civilizations leaders in clean power technology, exporting their expertise globally. Aquaculture was highly advanced, with vast underwater farms cultivating genetically optimized freshwater fish and aquatic plants. This ensured abundant, sustainable food resources for the dense urban populations and for export, creating a vibrant blue economy. Scientific research in limnology, the study of freshwater ecosystems, marine biology specific to the Rift, and sustainable resource management was paramount. Entire institutes were dedicated to understanding and protecting the delicate balance of the Rift Sea's unique ecosystem. This proactive environmental stewardship was not merely a policy. It was a deeply ingrained cultural value, understood as essential for the continued prosperity and spiritual well-being of their civilization. Their long history of adapting to and thriving with the Great Rift Sea had instilled a profound sense of responsibility towards their distinct environment. Societies were often organized around a deep respect for water. They had intricate customs and traditions tied to the great inland current. Water festivals were grand annual events. They celebrated the sea's bounty, its unifying power, and its role in connecting their communities. Navigation was not just a profession. It was a revered art, passed down through families. It intertwined ancient wisdom with cutting-edge data analysis. This fostered a profound multiculturalism, where the sea was the common thread binding together diverse African peoples. This led to rich cultural exchanges and shared philosophies. Our story returns to Captain Amara Khalfani, a highly respected navigator of the Rift Sea. Today, her vessel, the Serpent's Embrace, a sleek, solar-powered hydrofoil cargo ship, was carrying a precious shipment of rare earths from the Kushite Swahili ports, north to the Abyssinian Delta states. The journey was notoriously tricky. It involved navigating the deep, often unpredictable currents that swirled around the submerged mountain ranges. These were now treacherous underwater obstacles that could chew through a lesser hull. Her hydrosonar pulsed, painting a detailed 3D map of the subsurface. "Currents are stronger than projected in Sector Beta 7, Captain," her first officer, Django, reported. His fingers flew across the holographic navigation table. Django, a younger, more cautious officer, had risen quickly through the ranks due to his sharp, analytical mind. He looked up, a hint of concern etched on his face. "The thermal upwelling here is creating a rogue vortex, a Class 3 anomaly. The primary navigation array recommends a wide detour for safety. It adds 3 hours to our transit time." Amara considered this. A faint frown creased her brow. She knew the array's protocols were rigorous, designed for maximum safety. Yet they sometimes lacked the nuance of human experience. Her ancestral navigation charts, passed down through generations of mariners from the Naika Isles, spoke of singing rocks and whispering currents in that very sector. Her grandmother, a formidable woman who had navigated the rift in far less advanced vessels, had told tales. These specific whirlpools, seemingly chaotic, sometimes masked a stable, deeper channel. This was a ghost current that could be ridden. Amara's eyes, usually so calm, held a glint of challenge. This wasn't merely a calculation. It was a legacy. It was a deep intuition honed by generations of Khalfani mariners. It was a dialogue between her bloodline and the sea. She tapped a point on the display. It was a precise location that looked dangerously close to the anomaly's reported center. "No, Django," she stated. Her voice was calm and firm, cutting through the hum of the bridge. "Hold the line. This isn't a simple vortex. It's a surface phenomenon, amplified by the upwelling, yes, but it's shallow. The deeper thermoclines will provide better stability. This is a clear, swift channel directly beneath. The singing rocks warn of the surface chaos, but their whispers are of a path beneath. We'll descend slightly, stabilize at 150 meters, and let the countercurrent carry us through. It's faster. Trust the old knowledge, augmented by the new." A slight, confident smile touched her lips as she glanced at him. A subtle reassurance was in her eyes. This route is a Khalfani tradition, after all. We've navigated these ghost currents for centuries. Django hesitated for a second. His gaze flickered between the ominous red swirl on the holographic map and Amara's steady resolve. Then, with a decisive nod, a flicker of admiration replacing his apprehension, he adjusted the helm controls. His movements were precise. He guided the sleek hydrofoil into a controlled dive. The vessel vibrated gently as they sliced directly toward the churning waters. A subtle tremor was the only sign of the turbulent currents above. For a tense minute, the Serpent's Embrace seemed swallowed by the agitated water. The sonar depicted a maelstrom just above their hull. Amara's grip on the console tightened imperceptibly. Her senses were attuned to every nuance of the vessel's movement, the hum of the engines, the subtle shift in pressure. But then, with a subtle shift in the deeper currents, the vibrations smoothed. The vessel emerged on the other side. It cut cleanly through the fye, the calmer water beyond. The rogue vortex was left behind, a shimmering, harmless eddy on the surface. They had passed through the eye of the localized storm. This demonstrated the perfect harmony between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge technology. Amara allowed herself a small, satisfied sigh. The old knowledge had guided the new. The Serpent's Embrace continued its swift journey north, now a full 2 hours ahead of schedule. "Remarkable, Captain," Django murmured, his voice laced with genuine awe. "Truly remarkable." Amara simply smiled. A quiet pride warmed her. This time saved was crucial. It ensured their precious cargo of rare earths would reach the Abyssinian Delta in time for a critical planetary infrastructure project. It further reinforced her reputation as one of the Rift Sea's most astute and daring navigators. Each such passage, each successfully navigated challenge, was not just a victory over the elements. It was a testament to the enduring wisdom of her people, passed down through the very waves they sailed. Later that month, at a global maritime conference in London, a historian from the Euro-Atlantic Economic Consortium spoke eloquently of ancient European attempts to cross a vast ocean. He described how the age of discovery shaped their continent's dominance and subsequent global influence. He detailed the hardships, the bravery, the unknown lands they had encountered, implying a singular narrative of global exploration. Amara listened politely. A serene, almost contemplative expression rested on her face. Inwardly, however, she smiled. Her own history was one of ancient voyages across a different internal ocean, the Great Rift Sea. This had shaped an Africa that was never discovered. Instead, it had always been a dynamic, interconnected heartland. It thrived on the strength of its own great inland current. Her ancestors had navigated its depths. They had built empires on its shores. They had forged a powerful future through its arteries. The world around her, in 2025, was a testament to her continent's enduring power and innovation. It was living proof that destiny was often carved not by what was discovered, but by what was always present, profoundly shaping the land and the lives upon it. The Great Rift Sea, shimmering under the equatorial sun, remained the undisputed heart of it all.